values to properties. And two is we still have a debt service payment. I'll let Santos speak on the debt service payments that we have to make. But that makes up, keep in mind that the debt service makes up about 40 cents of the tax rate. And so I'll let Santos go
What are
over.
we over budget right now?
Right?
We're under,
Well, right now.
We're under?
well, the
Without
$40,000.
without the increase?
With that, you wanna see this? I didn't put the debt service in.
You said we were
Yeah,
over
we-
with the increase,
If we go back to what they call the no new revenue rate, we do have to make some cuts.
40,000 you said, right?
No, we have to make cuts of about 70,000.
Okay, 70,000, then
However,
we,
that's not including the increase to municipal court position we just talked about,
okay.
so that.
But we do have positions that are not filled,
No, no,
they're not filled, and we have them on there.
no, you have right now what we're talking about is we had requested 8 new positions.
Yes, but they're not filled yet.
Well, because we don't have, the budget hasn't been approved.
Okay, so, but that's what I'm saying.
So what we're trying to do on that end is make the appropriate cuts we need to make based on the decreases to the revenue and also any increases we may have for expenses, which would include the position of municipal court judge. So all in all, if we decrease the budget to go down to the no new revenue tax rate, we decrease it about $70,000. And then you'd increase for expenses for a municipal court judge, and I think I'd given the presentation of about $40,000. So all in all, it's a difference, add and subtract of about $110,000, $111,000 that we're looking to make adjustments that we still need to, either make cuts or, make cuts. We just have to, and we can find the cuts. That for us is not, the other thing that we would propose, and I want to make sure of this is I would ask that we use some of the remaining bond money to do more street work. I think the question, I don't have anything right now budgeted for additional streets, but what I'm proposing is if we could do this, we could add an additional $250,000 to the $300,000, which would give us $550,000 for street work. And I'm asking that we pay for the I'm losing it. The master drainage study with ARP money.
ARP money.
Yes, that's what I'm asking. We have already allocated that amount. We had taken it out of bonds. We haven't paid anything on it, but the total amount, it was about $250,000, which would be, again, which we would shuffle around to do additional streets. But we could make more cuts if we needed to add more street work, and I'm suggesting on this, and if y'all allow us to use the remaining bond money to do more street work. You can discuss the debt with the
Sure. Now, all the information that we've had is basing our tax rate on the proposed 94.55, and if we're going to reduce it to 91, there needs to be that understanding that our interest in sinking will not change. Right now it's coming in at 43 cents. So if the city decides that we're going to decrease it to 91, the proposed 91 cents, well, 43 of that will go into debt service. So that's where the cuts will need to come into place, because now our M&O rate of 51 cents will be reduced to accommodate the lower amounts of revenue that we're proposing. As I mentioned last week, right now the city's in a unique position with ARP money coming in, and it does allow for some flexibility, some reductions in revenue based on what's rolling over from our COVID money and what will be coming in within the next 2 years. So there is some flexibility. It's a one-time deal. So if the decision is to reduce the tax rate, again, that'll correspond with the city's history of not raising taxes, which is neither I wouldn't want to say good or bad, but it does affect the next coming years. I mean, once you leave money on the table, it does affect how much you can increase it in the following years. And with that mentality, as you embark on on different projects, well, it's important that you have the leeway to increase that debt service amount, because that's what you'll be increasing, is that debt service as you float more bonds to the necessary amounts that, without having to go to the voters. So all of that in mind, I know it's a lot to take in, but there's a strategy as you go forward to be able to fund your bonds and to fund the operational side. Right now, we're talking about reducing your operations, which is fine. But again, from here on out, your debt service rate will increase as you float bonds, as you embark on your master plan. So that's something that will need to be accepted and understood, that from here on out, you're going to have to increase your tax rate to support the debt that you're going to be wanting to float.
Can you tell them how the bond payments are set up and how, what, as far as what we're paying right now on your 2016 and 20?
Sure.
Do you have it with you? Or
Yeah, I have it. I have it on my phone. Right now, the city's total debt is $1.9 million. 1.27 million of that is being funded through our ad valorem taxes. So without doing anything different, without floating any more bonds, without financing any more items that are needed, that 43 cents is to pay for 1 year of debt service. Okay, as you go forward, well then, that you can understand that 1.2 million, based on our valuations, is 43 cents. So as you go up and you want to float $10 million, it's going to increase that debt service portion, and there's going to be a correlation to the amount of debt that you float and the amount of ad valorem taxes that are necessary to pay for that debt. And if it's water and wastewater projects, well, the rates that are going to be needed to support that. So there's a correlation. I mean, it's not overly complicated, but there needs to be a strategy with your financial advisor, with your director of finance, and the council as to how we're going to fund it, and assessing those needs and the costs going forward. So that's where we are right now. That's where we are today, and 43 cents of 91 cents that Mr. Reyes is proposing will go to debt. That's never going to change, regardless of if you want to reduce taxes or increase taxes. All we're talking about is the operational side of the general fund.
And part of what, just to add, because I don't think Santos he was not part of the reduction of the INS, is what I did with the debt service. I believe there's vehicles, car vehicles from PD that were also being financed, that were being paid. What I did is I removed that because I believe we're through paying those vehicles this year. Now, if the council wants to purchase them next year, what we could do is you could still purchase them, but you wouldn't pay the debt until next year. So that's one of the things, and I didn't discuss that with him. So that would be your decrease of your INS rate, which again is, at the time, was sitting at 43 cents because our intent was to start paying.
Without that amount, it'll probably drop to 41.
Yeah, it's about 40 cents, give or take. And so what you see in your what I sent to the council, it is around 40 cents that you would be paying for debt service, assuming we don't finance cars and start paying for them this year. So that was a change that was made. But again, on saying that, we're proposing the 89 cents is a no new revenue tax rate. Actually, it falls a little bit below the no new revenue tax rate, but I believe we can fund our projects or everything we have to get done, and not go above that rate. And in essence, we're not increasing the levy of what we're levying to people. So that's what we've done so far, and that's what you have before you. So
Council, just so that I understand, to make sure that I get this right, we had talked earlier about the no new tax rate being 91 cents, but because of this adjustment to the debt, really it's 89 cents. So the question is, the desire to raise taxes or not. We are at 86 cents, and the no new taxes again, the no new revenue, excuse me, would get us to 2.8 million that you see on there. That's where we would be at the 89 cents. So, and at that, again, correct me if I'm wrong, the only thing we really had in budget, we balanced at 89 cents. But the only thing we didn't account for was the municipal judge's salary. So that's where we'd have to find
No,
out.
we lost around $70,000 from that, so there's $70,000
Plus the 40.
plus,
Okay.
so it's
Forgive
different.
Why wouldn't we budget it?
Because again, one, there was no, our decision to budget for the municipal court judge, and I think I referenced it at my last presentation.
Yeah, we had talked
There was
about
and then the other, the 70, if we're reducing, again, remember, we're reducing the tax rate, there's gonna be a loss of revenue. So the question becomes, what do we cut?
Okay,
This, and that's what.
so I'm just gonna make one comment, Mayor, if I can, and then I'm
Yeah,
done with
yeah.
this, and then I will keep my notes, and I'll be very vocal on this with the people. We got 1.3 million already. We're getting,
It hadn't come in yet, but it's.
but it's
up.
for sure money,
Yeah.
okay? That money is to put the people at ease. That money is not for us to build a building. That money is to help us through this pandemic this year. Well, we all suffered last year. A lot of us suffered. And this year, I know rates will go up if we don't do this, but we have a lot of positions that are not filled. We're not gonna take food away from people's tables. We're not gonna fire people. What I'm asking the council to do and to think about this is that people lost their jobs. They lost a lot. They lost family members. And this money that our government gave us was to keep us afloat for 2 years and to take the burden away from the people. And if we have to just keep our tax rate the same this year and next year, that's why they gave it to us. Or if we do a lot better next year, this COVID leaves us and where we can start working, our hospitals are full right now. Okay, San Antonio's at a 5. Okay, it's not getting better, guys. We want it to get better, but it's not. And by putting more taxes on our people that barely can come and pay their water bill, and they're giving us 1.3 million. I think I'm a little bit off. We got to not do this. There's positions that they've already been in the budget that are not filled. We have departments that have asked for 5 or 6 more positions that are not filled. We need to cut 80,000 to 110,000. That's 2 positions that are not filled. Let's take the burden away from the people this year. We're still suffering. Just because some of us, we don't wear a mask, it's not over. It's not over. And that's all I gotta say in this subject. That's it. Y'all won't hear from me again.
Did you have a question?
Well, I just had a comment. Going from 86 to 89, how much will that generate?
No additional, there is no, it's a little over 2.8 million.
So nothing new?
No new revenue. It's the same revenue that we had last year. And again, part of that is because, again, your value decreases. So you had a value decrease, you still have, you have a higher tax rate. The rate is higher, but still, again, as far as the actual revenue, there is no revenue increase. Actually, again, there's a small revenue decrease. But again, we can absorb that by, again, making some cuts. And I mean, I see your point. I mean,
Well, one of the things that I, 2 or 3 years ago, we asked that a study be done for the salaries. Because, we want to be competitive with the area, and we want to attract people who are going to do the job, do it well, and so forth, for the city. I just feel that if we try to include the salary analysis paid as presented, and try to find that extra money to cut somewhere, I think we maybe need to leave the taxes alone for this year.
when you say alone, do you refer back?
Leave it at 86,
Leave it at 86, okay.
because I would like to see the employees get on track with the salaries and stuff. We need to do that.
Take care of what we got right now.
Yeah.
But go ahead and try to find that money somewhere else.
We can make some, and part of what we talked about, at least with some of this, is we have some projects that we're looking at, particularly, I would like to do the access control security. There's some things that I know that we want to do, we need to do. Do we have to do it this year? Probably not. But I knew that there are some cuts we can make, so I'll put it that way, that there are some things that we could do and adjust. And I think we and I had a discussion, you brought up a good point. Jumping into and I hadn't thought about this, jumping into some of these COVID discussions, we had, the council recalls, we had requested a parks position. And what happened last year with parks during COVID, there was no need, to be quite frank, all the civic center was closed, the community center was closed, now, I'm sure I'll have parks people that disagree with me, but there was that cut where it's like, okay, do you really need to have that staff to, now, are we gonna jump into it this year and have the same problem? We might, people where we close facilities, I don't know the answer to that. But is it somewhere we could consider cutting the position? Yeah, I mean, because I can see your point, so I'll just.
Councilman Leo?
If you need help, I'll help you cut the budget.
Oh, believe me,
But, I mean, has anyone on the council, I mean, now we're gonna have another, compared to the budget you gave us last time, there's gonna be something different now, right?
there's that.
Are we going to receive another booklet?
Yes.
And did anyone in the council actually go home and go line item by line item and see the difference? So,
Yeah.
uh,
And when you get that, that's what you need to do.
yeah, because, I mean, if you actually look at that, you could actually see where, I mean, it would be nice for everyone to put their input and say, well, you know, why are we asking this much more in this line item compared to the way it was 2 or 3 years ago? And things like that can help the city manager direct him in the direction that we want to go as a council and say, okay, well, maybe we need to slim the fat over here a little bit and not take away more of this. And I know a lot of council members are concerned about streets, but honestly, that should be the least of our concerns, because what's underneath those streets is the problem that we have. You know, if we, you know, go back there and pave, I mean, look at, what is it, Trinity? We paved that not too long ago, and you go back over there and there's cuts in it. Why? Because the infrastructure gave out. Once you start moving that topsoil, it shifts everything underneath it, and then you start having breaks. So we could patch everything we want, but as soon as we patch it, 6 months later, there we are cutting the asphalt. So I mean, do we really need to improve the streets, or do we need to improve infrastructure? Infrastructure is going to be more costly, but in the long run, it's going to be more effective.
Yeah.
So we need to go back, and we actually need to look at these booklets that we get handed out and look at it and see line item by line item what we think, in our personal opinion, where we could trim some fat, and then collectively get with the city manager and kind of tell him, whoa, what's your opinion? Because this is our opinion. And we work together, coincide, and then we try to achieve the goals that we all want as one.
Well, yeah, I would tell you, we have been doing that. We have been doing it. In the last city council meeting, there was a lot of focus on roads, and 300,000 wasn't quite enough. And so your point is valid and spot on, as far as before we spend a lot of money on the roads, we need to get the infrastructure in place. But there's a lot of roads that we can do some work, like Gilliam Road as an example. But anyway, as we move this forward, what is critical is what we're doing right now is giving him direction on how we can fine tune this. And certainly, guys, we've gotten, I guess this is the 3rd revision.
Well, I think we've had at least a half a dozen meetings about the budget.
Okay.
At least, but in saying that there have been revisions, and I'm just trying to get to a point where we can publish something,
Yeah.
because we do have some constraints, particularly the legislature's changed to where we're having to send notices that we've never sent before, at least to my knowledge. I don't recall. You guys will be receiving something in the mail from the appraisal district, if you haven't already. It's a notice basically letting you know about that the values, or excuse me, that your rates are online. I think something they spoke, the tax attorney spoke to that. But there's things like that it's like, so it's kind of, it's incumbent upon us not only to say, these are our effective rates and this is our road, I say effective, I keep going into that. These are our rates and this is our proposed rate, because we have to get that out to the public so they can see this is what our proposed rate is. On my end, it's tough for me to establish a proposed rate, not knowing all the ins and outs as to what changes may need to be made. And again, it's just a proposed rate. Can it change after it's proposed? Absolutely. You council could just say, we don't even like the proposed rate that you put out there. But in saying that, I have better direction, at very least as far as the rate. It's just a matter of now making whatever cuts and adjustments we need to make to make the budget work.
And guys, I think we're at a good place. I think we've had some good discussions, and we're really at a good place and not giving him a lot of conflicting ideas. And so he's taking these ideas and he's working them into our budget at the will and pleasure of the council. So we move there. So, you know, again, kind of what we talked about is the real rough trimming last month, kind of do some fine tuning this month, and we're ready for approval in September. So this is good information, and it's